That's it. That's all you. Oh, whoa!
Oh.
Put your sound off.
Oh God, what an intro. Here
Hi,
we go.
Claire. Are you gonna give us a freestyle? Ooh.
I already got the applause.
So I guess
Don't
we could.
even need to.
Yeah, no. The idea that was in your head was so good
That it just
doesn't even need to come out.
Right.
We're here with our first ever guest. She's the most beautiful, talented
Yes.
angel. Would you consider her human?
No.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't either. Celia! Woo!
Hello, everybody. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Oh, stop.
Miss
Stop it.
Chiquita herself.
That is right.
Welcome to the cast.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm honored that I'm the first freaking guest.
It feels fake.
It does.
Feels like no one's going to hear this.
I feel like we're just sitting, hanging out, recording this for ourselves.
Yeah, no. This is for specifically Carla.
Yeah, this
Hey,
is for my
sis,
mom.
What's
Hey, Mom.
up? Hope you like this
you.
episode.
What's for dinner tonight? I'll see you later.
So I actually met Celia when we were working at a pizza place, which is kind of funny because
Love
all we
that pizza
did,
place.
it's a great pizza place, but all we did,
I wouldn't even call it pizza necessarily.
Yeah.
I honestly think that it's something else. When I think about pizza, I don't think about this place.
yeah, you're right. It's one of those things you specifically crave.
Yeah.
You think it's pizza, people would call it that, but
It's like
I
weird
either want-
fan
flatbread,
favorite. It's a fan
it's a
favorite.
fan
Where
favorite.
we're from.
It's a Fairfield
Yes.
County
but
favorite.
it's not pizza.
Yeah, but how long ago was that?
It's a flatbread.
It's like a flatbread.
It's a
No, it
flatbread.
genuinely is more like a flatbread than a pizza, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That was
We're so bad at
3
math
years
on this
ago, maybe?
podcast.
Yeah, you don't
maybe
have to
like a
do that.
little
A three and some change. Yeah, 3 and some change for sure.
We were rounding our corner to our friendiversary, actually.
Oh
I
yeah,
think.
we met around this time
I
of
feel
the
like summer
the
we
year.
trained.
And then
So
we
we
opened in
started-
November-ish. So we're coming
it
on
was a little
4 years of
longer.
friendo.
Aw, what are
We
gonna
could have gone to high
do?
school.
Wow.
Our friendship has gone through high school. It's really matured
Yeah.
in that
We're so
way
grown
too.
up now.
I know.
Shoot.
But we
Crazy.
immediately they separated us, obviously. I had purple
As they
hair at
do.
the time, so Celia was obviously drawn to me because she knew I was cool. That's just
Yeah.
an immediate cool girl moment.
It was on-site, just an on-site
Mm-hmm.
friendship moment.
And we would message each other through the reservation iPads. We
Yeah.
would just send each other BuzzFeed
Quizzes.
quizzes. We'd send each other BuzzFeed quizzes.
I feel like the colored hair is just such an inviting.
It's a safe
characteristic.
space.
It is because it's like either you were going through it and you needed to express it visually, emotionally to people, so we'll acknowledge you and we're all in this together, or it's like it's an interesting way to express yourself because you're like
Yeah, it's called the Manic Pixie Dream Girl for a reason.
Love the Manic Pixie
Oh,
Dream Girl.
Love a good trope.
But Celia's not a pizza lady. She's actually an artiste. Dare I say, a magical artist.
Stop.
Truly.
Oh my gosh.
So why don't you
Gifted. Really
give our
gifted.
friends and our fans and all of our listeners a little spiel about yourself? I know it's hard. I don't mean to put you on a spot, but tell me everything about
Yeah,
yourself.
just what you like to do.
should I start from the beginning?
Yeah, tell us
I
about
was
you.
born at 11 something in the morning
Ooh.
at Lenox Hill Hospital.
Leo rising.
Hell, well, I don't know.
I don't know either. That was a total guess.
Got a lot of earth apparently in my birth chart. Not a very well versed zodiac lady myself.
She's a
but
Taurus, though.
I am a Taurus. I'm a lover of making things.
Yes.
Anything I can figure out how to use, any object I can find in my house.
Michael just walked in shirtless. So.
How's the drip dry?
he
Oh.
he's gonna take a shower at my house, and I told him there was towels downstairs, but instead he said he was just gonna drip dry.
I really want to know how that goes. It never works that well for me.
Yeah, that's a
It's the worst
choice.
when you do it at a friend's house.
Especially in the cold. Like we're rounding end of October.
You could have nude sunbathed outside if it was fucking
Yeah.
summer.
Yeah.
Oop,
What?
I curse.
And it's okay. We could say curse words.
Oh, we were talking about smoking weed the other day. It was a whole thing.
I'm a good gal, okay? I ain't never cheated on no test, all right?
She's
I drive
winking.
the speed limit. I'm not winking. Don't take that out in post.
Sorry, we don't do that.
What were we talking about?
You were
before?
born in Lenox Hill.
Oh yes, of course. My story. Back to the beginning. No, but yeah, any material I can figure out how to use and how to work to my advantage. That's it.
And plug your Instagram, your creatives first, so that way, if you know people are listening to this, they could follow along, and give you a nice scroll through as you're giving the artistic spiel.
True. I actually made it private.
Oh,
You guys
through-
need her
if you're lucky,
approval.
you might see.
We're going through a period of integration.
Mhm.
I realized I don't want it all to be separate
Okay.
because it's too much work, but B, why separate it?
Yes.
Art, cooking, all of it. I want it all to
Life.
just be in the
Yeah.
same place because I don't compartmentalize the different things I like to do. So why compartmentalize on Instagram?
Yeah,
Very valid.
that's a great point.
I wish I could do that, but it just becomes chaotic. It just becomes chaos.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, what is she doing today?
I-
I'm like, today I'm a yogi today, everyone.
Yeah. What do you think it's about our generation that, or maybe not our generation, maybe just specifically our groups of friends or the people I gravitate towards, don't do one thing.
I don't know. I think that's just the best kind of person.
Yeah.
I feel like it's really cool. I want to be a freaking Renaissance man or a Renaissance lady, I guess.
Mhm.
Yes.
I love the idea of like mastering a bunch of different things. And I think that people who have a bunch of different interests and who are passionate about a bunch of different things are just cooler than people
Yeah.
who like don't. I don't know.
Definitely. It's definitely also broad. Like, you got them crafty parents.
True.
You got them crafty parents.
Shouts out my parents giving me all the construction paper and the freaking paste a girl could eat.
How long have you been, would you consider that you've been doing art?
Probably since child.
Since being chilled.
Dexterity in hands, able to make things onto other things.
Are you left-handed or right-handed?
I'm right-handed.
Unfortunately.
It's okay.
Wham, wham.
I know.
No, it's okay. We still accept you here.
We could try and break my hand and see if I could relearn.
This is
My
reverse Catholic school.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
This is a left-handed
I'm
society.
trying to break the stereotypes of like left hand naughty and just do left hand awesome. I know so many awesome left-handed people.
You're looking at two right now, and
Exactly.
a third that is gonna drip dry out of the shower.
Oh shit! I didn't even know he was left-handed.
Yeah,
That's amazing. I wish I was left-handed.
It's okay. We could teach you.
you could be.
Oh, come
what's it
on.
called when you're not actually it, but they say.
Ambidextrous.
Yeah.
No, when someone
ambidextrous.
anoints you as something, even though you're not really it. Like, oh, we'll consider you that, even though you're not.
Oh, honorary.
yeah, an
president.
honorary left-handed gal. But to be
Honorary
fair,
lefty.
it's weird because astrologically, you and I should not get along, says the stars. But I feel like you are genuinely my right-hand lady. Could always.
You my left hand.
Celia is totally the person I always go to where I need help with my ideas coming to fruition. I'm like, please, Celia, take this idea and run with it, because
make me
you're so good
cry.
at that. But tell us more about your art.
Oh yeah, I painting, loves to paint, larger scale. It has been the most fun, but we've definitely shrunken the scale since there's no studio to build a 4-foot by 6-foot stretcher in.
Mm-hmm.
Got one over there. Got one in the BPT.
Oh.
Come on
Oh
through.
my god, holy shit! I actually really need to build a stretcher.
No, you can't.
Oh my.
You got to go to the studio.
We have to end the podcast now.
All
because
right.
I
Well,
have stuff to
thanks
talk
for
about.
coming on.
Roll the outro music. What else? Oh, ceramics.
Mm-hmm.
I left that one.
That is
For
when
last.
that is when your creativity hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
This over my shoulder, you guys can't see it, but what do you call those?
A vase?
Yeah, it's a vessel.
Oh.
You could call it a vase.
It's like
My monozygotic vase, I think, is what that one specifically.
monozygotic.
The idea of like a zygote, like little baby, pre-baby, splitting into two,
Love that.
and then it becomes twins.
It's
both from
beautiful.
The same
It
zygote,
is.
I needed to have it.
It's pretty fucking insane. I've never seen anything really, first off, sculpted like that before. It's a vase with a
so
hole in
complicated.
the middle. It's a vase with a hole in the middle, and then 2 vase spouts at the top, and then 2 handles, and then but 1 base.
It's insanity.
I think I explained that good. And then the drawings on it too.
It was definitely a work in, I guess physics. I don't know, spatial. It was interesting.
Not only is it beautiful though, her style of artwork is just insanity too.
I'd say also Celia is the type of artist where I think it bleeds into your everyday.
Yeah,
The
she's just a
look.
walking art piece.
Yes.
It's really hard to
It's
just
actually gonna make me cry.
to be in her presence is an honor.
Yeah.
It truly is.
Yeah, she's got
Even
an
just
embroidered shirt on.
Even just to bounce ideas off of, or even to make art with is so fun. It's like, are you sure you want me a part of this thing that you're making that I'm gonna make much worse?
But it's definitely not. That's not the case though. At all whatsoever.
No, I'm
Don't
kidding.
sell yourself short.
I'm worth some money, and that's funny because that's what we're gonna talk about today. But before
Didn't even mean to rhyme.
actually this week it's October 7th today.
7th or 8th.
Yeah.
We'll date stamp this right here right now. It's October 7th. Claire, do you want to tell the audience about your
Guys,
sober
It's
October?
8th, actually.
Oh, it's October 8th.
October 8th. Sober October lasted a day and a half, everyone. So thank you. It was a struggle in itself, must I be honest. Okay, here's my reasoning though. Like I mentioned last podcast, not that I like aspire to be fucking Joe Rogan or anything, but the idea originated, I believe, from him a couple years back. Him and all of his friends would do it. And then, you know what? This year they're like, we're not doing it. And I was like, what the fuck? The leaders? They're not doing. I was like,
Claire said, I'm a follower, and if you're not doing it, I'm not either.
Well, a follower of sobriety. It's really like, here's the thing. It's like, I know it's not like a crippling sort of addiction. Because, like, if you have a problem, you should, go get help and, like, stop rationalizing it. But, like, you know, I do things. I'm productive. And it's not like cocaine.
Claire rationalizing it right now.
That's right.
Not crack, not cocaine. One more time for the folks in the back.
Not
Just
crack,
weed.
Not cocaine, just marijuana. And if you feel like a lazy piece of shit, just get up and do a workout. Because then you know what? You'll feel like you don't have to stop smoking. Because then you moved at least.
Well,
that's my advice.
Yeah. So I think it was October 1st. I was hanging out with my friend Philip and our other friend Claire. Celia actually introduced me to her. I know her through Celia. And we were sitting in my living room and we were talking about how I was putting up photography. I think I was about to post a photo or something on my photography account. And Claire has been doing nature photography for a really long time, and she just has buckets and buckets of photos. It's ridiculous how many photos she has.
Like, the arsenal, and I'm like, there are literally, one time she was like, here, scroll. There were like 5,000 photos, and I'm like, I can't even look, like,
of different landscapes.
And she's
things.
really good.
I saw on your post.
Yeah, and so we were sitting there talking, and I said, why don't you post? Like, you should use your photography account. And she was nervous. And I, as a person who doesn't get nervous to share their art, I couldn't understand why it was scary to her. So she was going to post a photo, and then me being me and Philip being Philip, I was like, why don't we come up with something called, like, Photo October, Photober? So you have to at least post every single day for all of October. You're going to get your artwork out there. And Philip's building onto the idea, and we're like getting her riled up.
You gotta have the hype men too.
To just start posting and not be scared.
I haven't seen the one today for October 8th, I don't think.
I don't,
this morning, but
she usually posts them at night, but the idea of being scared to post was like something I'd really never thought about except for sometimes when my photos are a little risque of myself, I'm like, should I post my nipple on the internet? I'm not really sure. It's art, so we will. But then we were talking more about collaboration. I was telling them how sometimes, they were telling me, or people always comment on my photos, like, you should move to LA. You would do so well in LA. Oh my gosh, Gloriana, you don't know what you could achieve if you just were surrounded by the right people. And I was thinking to myself, I don't think I'm cool enough for LA or a big city like that, because the people I've tried to collaborate who live in my town didn't want to do it with me. So how can I think I'm cool enough for people who are bigger than that, or who I don't even know? If someone in my town who grew up in the same neighborhood and city as me doesn't think I'm cool enough, quote unquote.
No, that totally does not matter. They're the fucking people you grew up with.
Not that I grew up with. Hello, nice. Like, I've met in my teens and 20s.
But it's a town. Like, it's the city, but it's a town. And what's cool about being in a city when it's actually a city and not just a city by the number of people who live in it is that there are so many different kinds of people, and you meet so many different people doing so many different things. And it doesn't become am I cool enough? Am I cool enough? Like, obviously, like, yeah, of course, if you're human, you're probably going to feel that way every once in a while. But because there's so many different kinds of people doing so many different things, I think it just becomes, we're different, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think I've always looked at it as, oh, my art is cool. And you might think my art is cool. But once you meet me and you try to be friends with me and use my skills and use your skills and combine them, you might not actually like who I am, because I'm very much myself, and sometimes that isn't cool to do.
That's why being in the city is freaking awesome and like freeing, because there are people, weird in quotation marks, weirdos are the best kinds of people, not weird in a disparaging way, but there are people who the normies out there would think are like 20 times weirder than you are. Yeah. But they have their people. 100%. They find the people who they can get on with. They find their little corner of the universe.
Yeah, and the people who are worried least about being cool are the coolest. Always.
Yeah, I agree. But I think because the people in the social media aspects, because say, like, I want to use my photography to take pictures of those quote unquote cool people, I know I'm not their version of cool, if that makes any sense. It's like intimidating. I wouldn't fit in their clique. I wouldn't be sitting at their lunch table.
I know what you mean. Like, when somebody is like, have you ever met that person that just tries to be friends and can be friends with everyone in the room? And they're just like, like, life of the fucking party. Like, they'll be like just a mile a minute talking to everyone, and I'm just like, could never be me. I literally sit here and I'm like, hey, what's up? Like,
I think I'm kind of that person. It's not always successful, but it's like, if I'm meeting someone new, I want them to be comfortable badly that I'm like, it becomes performative, where I'm like, let's talk about whatever you want, and I'm like freaking doing the cha-cha around them.
But are you doing it because you want them in your life, or you're just doing it for the moment?
Because I want, maybe I want them in my life, maybe I don't, but it's like, when people are more reserved, more shy, or maybe they think, maybe they think they're better than you, or they think they're cooler than you, and so it becomes a persona. And I think that's another thing that's kind of dangerous about, like, looking on Instagram and being like, oh, I'm not as cool as that person. I'm not cool enough to, like, be friends with this person, just based on, like, what you see on Instagram and what they're portraying. It's a persona. Yeah, it's all.
But I'm talking to, like, a degree. I'm talking about people I've met in person that I thought I could become friends with and then collaborate with, and them like being in person with me, and it not like them not wanting to be my friend.
It's
and I'm
like what Celia said, the persona. People can't drop it, can't let go of it. They like keep up the facade, and if someone they think like doesn't mesh
up
with
to par,
or doesn't have a facade themselves, they're like, oh, then what is this?
And it's all insecurity at the end of the day anyway. Like the notion that it's like, oh, I don't want to be your friend just because you're not secure enough like in yourself to just be like, you're cool, I'm cool, like let's be pals. We had this conversation before about certain people who are so concerned about like what they're putting out into the universe and how they hold themselves, where it's like, you know, there have been people who have hung out with you and I who've been like, you guys are fucking weird. Like, have you not seen each other for like 6 months or something? And we're like, oh, we saw each other yesterday. Like,
we're just really happy to be in each other's presence
so much. And they were like, yeah, you guys are fucking weird. And I'm like, no, we're not weird. You're insecure.
Yeah. You don't know really how to, but then I'm like, do they know that, or do they genuinely are not interested in having those types of relationships with people?
On the flip side, the people who are like, I think are being like really insecure or like holding up that persona or whatever, like I can also feel for them, because it's like they'll increase it.
Yeah,
like,
it's kind of sad.
No, those people I try to be friends with, and it's like I'm starting to feel bad about myself because you won't let me in, and that makes me think I'm less than, versus like, oh, it's not it.
You haven't gone there yet.
Yeah.
You haven't realized what I've realized. You weren't bullied from the age of 11 to the age of 17, and so you just don't get it.
That's right.
Yeah, you have all three of us are kids of.
We're veterans of
harassment.
Oh my
school
God.
Bus harassment.
Yeah.
Playground harassment, lunchroom harassment,
classroom harassment. I'm like, hey, teacher, can you? And they're like, ooh, no, we're scared of that girl. We can't say anything.
The
I'm
worst
like, cool.
when the teacher's like on their side. They're like, no, maybe you should quiet down. And you're like, what's going on here?
Oh yeah, I was always
Conspiracy?
the loudest in the class, so the teachers were not about it. But how do you feel, since you've lived in the city for a few years now, right? You've
Cumulatively?
Yeah, you went to school in the city.
Yeah.
And now you live
CUNY
in
alumni, shouts out Hunter College.
How do you feel
I don't know.
you've navigated through finding genuine people who wanted to be your friend, but also you reaching out to people who you deemed like kind of scary to associate yourself with?
It's still kind of weird. I definitely have had moments and will continue to have moments where I feel like I'm trying really hard to be like, hey, like I'm going to do this later. Especially like when I worked at the store in Soho, and it was like pretty cliquey. And so I would always try and like be pals with everybody, and like it always stopped like at the door. It was like, okay, like we're at work and we're friends. And I'm like, I'll be here later if you want to come hang out. And they're like, maybe. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Get it.
You're
get
not
it.
coming. That's totally fine. But I think it's so rewarding to know, well, the city is tiny. It's huge, but it's tiny. And maybe that's just, you associate with certain circles. You have a certain kind of type.
You're walking the same places every day.
You just end up seeing the same people and over again. But it's so rewarding to find your freaking clan and to find your people in like a sea of people who are not so cool, that it's like, I know more cool people are out there and I want to make more friends. And I know that it's not always going to work. Sometimes it's just going to absolutely fall flat. Sometimes wrong place, wrong time. But you just got to keep on keeping on. It's just worth it.
Like we were saying earlier, I feel like it even applies in that respect. Like when your hard work pays off and you're just like, yes. And then you're sitting there with all these like really cool people
you're looking
and
around.
friends, and you're like,
yeah,
I moved here by myself and I met you all my damn self.
Actually, my father helped me move. Thank you.
I think one of the hardest things for me is I'm constantly jumping out of my comfort zone in some ways, but there's other ways where I live in my comfort zone in the sense of staying in my hometown, which is a comfort zone to me. And I literally, it's such a comfort zone. I cannot picture myself anywhere else right now. And maybe one day that will change, but I don't know. I like have no clue.
I feel like it might.
Yeah,
I feel like you never know until it happens to you. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I mean, we're going to start our commune, and the commune will not
I
be
see
in
myself
our
living in
water.
the commune. I'm fine with that move.
Cool.
I think in the sense of starting a career. I take photos and I do photography, but I have such a hard time picturing myself making that a real job where that's real money and I have my own money to do things and I could afford an apartment. And then
When you get there, just remember that they will hold your pay for as long as they want. It'll be like, oh yeah, in 60 days, we might pay you. Just be prepared for when you start doing magazine jobs and just commercial jobs in general as like a creative, like in that freelancey capacity.
yeah.
They will hold your money. Like it's still their money, even though
Yeah.
you're like, wait, but I literally did that job 6 months ago. Are you ever going to pay me? Giant company with billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Like, maybe. Depends how well the magazine does,
Maybe
actually.
next year.
That's crazy. I feel that getting taken advantage of, and as a like artist, when I was like fucking 17, probably, one of my bosses that I work for at an ice cream shop found out that I was like a good artist, and he was like, "Oh, I'll give you $500 to create two fucking billboard sized advertisements for him, hand painted 2 billboard sized."
I just got
500
chills
bucks.
all over my body. I literally have chills. My hair is standing up on my arm because
Yeah.
that is Rindonkin limbs.
And he still uses them like 5 years later.
You should have gotten him into a contract where he, in perpetuity, one of my favorite contract words, that he would have to pay you fucking
Yeah.
royalties for
And I
that.
was like, God damn. I was like, oh my gosh. And I still see it every, like, because they're like
I
seasonal.
can't look back. I can't.
And I'll look at it.
It's
I
so
don't know.
weird how
Like,
Mischief Night
nice.
is this month. It's so weird that those signs are up and you
Just-
own spray paint.
Huh.
Like, that's so weird.
So funny.
I try so hard to forget all of the things that I've done, all of the things that I've given away for not enough money. And if I had to see a billboard that just immortalized me just doing all of this work for no money, I think I would lose all my marbles.
Yeah, and I'm like, I need to move away from this town because he will continue to use that until it falls apart. And then we'll probably just copy it.
Yeah. He probably
Make
already has
another
the
one.
copy ready.
It sucks fucking seeing all the shit that you just like give away.
It's the hardest too because when people reach out to me and ask me for things, just in general, when people ask me for things, I'm a yes man. So I'm just going to say, yes,
Hell
yes,
yeah.
yes. I'll totally do that. I could easily do that for you 100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I forget or I just wait too long to put a price on it. And then I would usually never end up putting a price on it. And it was so bad to the point I needed to get someone to make my deals for me because I couldn't ask people for money. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I feel that there's some people that I will do stuff for free for because like I love you and
Mhm.
like duh, like scratch my back, scratch yours.
Yeah, of
like
course.
you,
Yeah.
Leisha, fucking parent, like anyone like that. But fucking ice cream shop boss, motherfucker. I was like, oh my god,
Kick rocks, sir.
literally kick rocks.
But it is hard when it's your friends though, because
Yeah.
it's like, obviously if you spend like a lot of time and energy on something, it's like you're my friend and I want to give you something.
Yeah,
But sometimes it's too like specific. You know that you just like spent all this time, all this money, all this material, all this shit. And it's like, as much as I love you, like just in terms of like figuring out like self-worth and like how
Yeah.
that personal kind of feeling goes back into it. It's always really nice when your friends are like, yeah, like you're one of the people who are always like,
I'll give you my because
I value this.
for me,
Mhm.
owning this vase that you made, I think about how someone else could have owned it and given you more money than I was capable of giving you, and it hurts me so bad to think about that, how I could have like done you damage. So I needed to give you money for it.
And I think we all understand that as like artists and like creative people. I would literally love to throw my money at you. Just don't even need anything in return, to be honest. But
Yeah.
but like that's the thing. But then the friends that aren't artists and don't have like the creative soul, and you'd think that this would make them be like, oh yeah, I want to pay money for it, but they don't.
I can't do
But they
this.
don't like register
Mhm.
sometimes, and they're just like, oh, but you could do this for me. And
Yeah,
you're
it's
just
always
like,
really awkward when you're kind of backed into the corner where it's like, I can do something for
Mhm.
you,
Yeah.
but you can't have that, and I
Mhm.
won't make you one of those for free.
Yeah,
and
I'm-
there's just like a level that I'm like, oh my god, professional.
I'm very much the type of person you could even ask people. Then I've had my work hanging on my bedroom wall or my office wall, and they'll be like, I like that. And I say, take it right off. Michael's pointing to himself.
I've seen that happen multiple times,
multitude of times.
Houses.
Because sometimes I'm just like, if you like it, I could remake something to put on my wall. But there's those one thing or a few paintings that I'm so proud of that I want to keep for me. And then someone will be like, oh, I want that. And I'm like, how much money you got in your pocket? Just like, I can't give you that one. And it's so hard for me to do because then I'm like, are you taking it personally?
Yeah, and you don't want
take
it to be personal.
Yeah. And I think that might also happen because how accessible some art is in other capacities. Like you could easily go to Urban or order like a fancy painting online and hang it in your room and it could cost $60. And that painting right there could have costed me on my wall like $40 to make, but doesn't mean I want to give it to you for $40. It means
but you put time into it.
Exactly.
And it's an equation. It has to be, okay, well, only recently have I because my father keeps saying this to me and I'm like, oh my God, like how do I can't do math, A. And it's like,
welcome to the mathless podcast.
But it's also like an impossible equation because he's like, okay, how much did your materials cost you?
Oh.
Base cost, boom. Materials, boom. How much time did you spend? What is the value of your time to you?
Yeah. And
you spent 10 hours, especially with like huge paintings or like something ceramic. It's like I spent more than 10 hours. I spent who even knows how much time waiting and putting it in the kiln or waiting for that layer of oil paint to dry. And it becomes this crazy equation where you're like, oh, I spent 7 hours on this. It doesn't look like I spent 7 hours on it. Maybe if you look at it, in passing, but it makes it more valuable.
Yeah. Or the paintings are pieces that you spend a ridiculous amount of time on. And then you're like, and charge people that for that.
Oh,
like,
all the time.
64 hours on one painting. 64 hours. Crazy. And I'm like, I mean, I couldn't fucking. And it's not even a large painting. It's like it's quite small actually. But the internet's like, oh, $10 an hour. I'm like, I'm about to charge someone $640 for a canvas that's smaller than 16 by 20. Like
sometimes, yeah. Come on, we've all been to a gallery before where you're like, oh, this is cute, and then like, you look closer and you're like, wait, I don't have $1,200,000 in my pocket right now.
I'm like, where's this audience? Because I like look it up on the internet. How much should I charge for this painting? And they'll be like $1 a square foot, and it's $3,600. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, what? Give me these clients.
Yeah, I think what's really hard too is if in my head something's worth X amount, whether it be because of supplies or how much time or effort it's going to take me to do. Sometimes that number is so high in my own brain that I don't want to say something lower. So I just will not take a job versus like, oh shoot, I'm an artist and I want it to be my job. So I kind of have to put a price on it that's lower than I wish it was.
Or you just give the price, boom, this is the price. And it's not necessarily non-negotiable. That's like where all the other stuff comes in. Can it become, if it was supposed to be $1,500, could it be $1,000 and like trade if you're shooting like a brand?
Yeah,
Can
exactly.
you kind of find a way to still make it worth it? You pay for my transportation. I don't know what it is. I feel like there's no harm in going for the price that you think it is, even if it is high, if you make it known that like, you can negotiate with me, especially for a job. I feel like it's different for a painting. I feel like people don't feel like they can negotiate as much for a painting. But if it's like a time and effort thing, like, hey, maybe instead of doing a 2-day shoot, it's just 1 day and then the rate's lower for 1 day versus 2.
Yeah. Also just not having the knowledge of a true professional is also scary because I'm like, how much does that person charge? Am I in a completely different price range? Is it because my education or like all the equations to try and rationalize how much I should deem myself to be worthy is so complicated.
Yeah. Sometimes I literally, before I sell something or ask for, an offer, I'll have to gas myself up like heavy. I'll be like, no, you need to.
That's
get
actually
the
a
bag.
really good idea.
I'm like,
look in the mirror and do like some jumps, do some like
I'm
little
like,
hops.
I'm
and
like, everyone has to get the bag, and you gotta get it this way. So you just you gotta ask for the $200, and that's what it is. That's just how it be. You won't go below that. If they want to give above, that's nice too. But it has to be 200.
Min.
One of the hardest things too, though, is looking at something that I think it's hard because I have art eyes, and so I look at something and I'm like, okay, is this worth $300? Would I want to pay that much money? Probably not.
Yeah.
And I try and make it a price that I think I would want to pay, but then I completely forget. Some people just are so in awe by art sometimes that they're willing to pay whatever.
It's something
Right.
they can't do. They don't know
Yeah.
how to do it.
And sometimes I look at things like, oh, I could probably do something similar, or oh, that's kind of expensive. I could go without, maybe.
But then I'll look on like my demographic on like Instagram, and it'll be like all females under the age of 21, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, so all these females under the age of 21 are gonna pay me $300 for a fucking
Yeah.
canvas.
Dude, maybe.
And
Maybe
how
their
did-
daddy just got him a Range Rover, and so they're ready to
True.
spendies.
True, but also I'm like, oh, sometimes I'll like paint for my price range. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like, okay, well,
How much you can, sliding scale. But
I'm
I
like,
think
it's
that
$20. Like, fucking fine.
you
Yeah.
can go $20. I feel like people are more apt now versus like maybe like 7 months ago to spend more money on something that they know was like made in a better way.
Yeah.
We see all of these stores closing, and I feel like people want
To
kind of more
support.
of that smaller brand, someone that maybe lives in the same neighborhood as them, and they're doing something and they're doing it well, and they want to support them, and they want to support their friends, even just friends. Like I feel like
Yeah.
more
I've-
friends are willing to spend their money on your stuff because they know you're working hard for it.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
noticed that too.
That's-
Someone would rather buy a candle from someone on Etsy with a homemade business card and a thank you letter with their name on it
Yeah.
than go to
And
Home
Urban
Goods.
or go to Home Goods or go
In-
wherever.
100%.
That like level of personal touch, I feel like
Mhm.
people want it more than ever.
Do you think
Yeah,
it's because
it's-
we're lacking so much emotional touch with people? Like
'Cause of
because of
COVID?
Corona? Yeah, you just want like things with personal touches on it
Yeah, like
to surround your home.
definitely. And like you said, it's so important to like know your community and like the
Mhm.
people in it, and just because they
feel
do
like it
want to
feels
support
good.
you. Yeah, like because they're like, oh, this came from right from where I'm from. Like you could then brag about it, not
Yeah.
only the person, but it being from your town. People love
Yeah,
that.
like, ooh, I know them.
And
Actually, I
people-
grew up with them.
Yeah, people are like, yeah, you like this?
But I think people are also kind of disenchanted. Some people, not all people, not casting aspersions, to each their own, but the idea of like things that are manufactured in like the thousands, people don't really like that anymore. I feel like less people are doing their, not in my building, but less people are doing their bulk Amazon Prime orders of like all that stuff, and like they want less of that kind of thing because there's so much more information that's kind of being shared and dispersed on like how awful it is, and because we live in like 24-hour news cycle, like
Yeah.
Instagram generation, there are so many like adorable infographics that all our Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator hotties and homies out there are making that kind of condense the information so more people are absorbing it and reading it and realizing, oh, you know what? Maybe like I don't want to drink Oatly. Maybe I don't want to support this brand anymore.
Yeah.
What happened with Oatly?
The
They're not
company that owns the parent company of Oatly. I don't know what parent company is
Give me
specifically.
the tea. I almost bought some today.
But apparently they're like just deforesting rainforests
Yeah,
right
just
now.
pick a
All right,
different oat
absolutely
milk.
canceled.
But actually, oat milk is not that hard to make. You just have to be careful because if you blend it too much, it'll get slimy.
Mm-hmm.
But you literally oats and water and a blender.
Yeah.
Boom.
Back
And that's
back
it.
to Celia's fucking creativity over here, knowing how to
She
make
is
oat
such a
milk
chef in the
okay.
kitchen, but she's also a model and also a ceramicist and an artist. So how do you deem different skill sets that you have at higher price points or lower price points?
I don't know. I guess I've never thought about it before. I don't think of like my cooking in terms of like its marketability, I guess, just because
I think you
cooking in
have
my
though in the
kitchen.
past of like having dinners and
Oh yeah. It never came to fruition, sadly, because of the state of affairs. We
Yeah.
didn't get to do it. That I feel
I was
like
excited for that.
I would still love to do it, and I feel like on a smaller scale, it can definitely still happen. The idea of a dinner party to me is just like beautiful.
And
It's like the tops.
May I just say, it would be 110% like Beetlejuice to the best.
Yeah, it would be
Celia.
beautiful.
Like,
shrimp
it would
cocktail
be
grabs
like,
your
yeah,
face, but
shrimp
you love
hands.
it.
but it'd be like absolutely insane. You'd be like, this is what I came for.
Yeah, that's my dream. One of my favorite movies ever of all time.
Mm-hmm.
We're simultaneously attracted to and repulsed to by Beetlejuice.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're nasty,
it's
but
the
I
best.
love you.
It's
Yeah.
the best. Like
I
the
get it.
uncle from Weeds, if anybody knows.
Oh, so
Exactly.
attracted to him. It's
So ugly,
absurd.
so hot.
There are just those dudes out there. But I feel like it's hard with certain things because I feel like I don't know enough. Like I've undercharged lots and lots of time in terms of like putting this in quotations, my talent, lending my image to stuff, just because when you don't have someone to be like, hey, no, like you need to ask for this rate, like you'll just do it. you know?
Exactly.
I'm like, oh yeah, $200 for like, I don't even know, like 2 days work. I'm like, hell yeah, dude, let's fucking do it.
So good.
And then I'm like, wait, this is a lot of work, and I definitely should have charged more for this. But
For photography or for painting or
modeling or what's the deal?
I guess like I feel that way about modeling just because I don't really know anything, and it's such a weird, it's a really weird world out there. But I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to be better about understanding like the pricing and stuff like that in all the different endeavors. It definitely doesn't help that I like to do a bunch of different things because
you've come to the right place.
you know, if it's like, not saying that this exists or will exist, but if it's like a cookbook versus like a ceramic piece versus a painting versus my time for 6 hours, like I don't know what I think is worth more money than another.
Yeah. Do you ever get caught in the quantity quality?
I am
loop?
definitely quality over quantity, perhaps to my detriment.
See,
Yes.
wait,
I
quality over quantity.
like wants it to
Yes.
be better, so she'll work on it for like days on end,
Yes.
on end.
Or I'll
And you-
only make one.
yeah.
There'll be one that exists. And, you know, I'm sure it would be jolly well good fun if there were 5 of them, but there's only one. I really like the like one of one type thing. But, I think it's
Exclusive.
definitely good to figure out, at least on like a slightly larger scale, more like small batch, like under 50, to figure out how to kind of mass produce. But then I think it becomes a whole other equation because then you have to factor in cost if you're not
It's
doing it
scary.
yourself.
It's so much.
It's a lot to think about. Like if you're going and you're printing something somewhere, then it's
So
like, okay,
expensive.
like this is how much it cost me to print. This is how much time and effort I put into it. These are all the materials I used. And then it just becomes like, wait, how do I?
Yeah, and then you realize that you're like a middleman for your own work at that point, because then there's someone who's like actually doing the prints, doing the fucking CMYK
Yeah.
fucking levels
All
and
that
shit,
crazy stuff.
and printing it and sending it through, and then you get them back now and they're like mastered basically, and you're like, oh
But I'm also like so neurotic that I just wish that like I could do it.
yes.
I'm like, I don't trust you.
I wish I had a printing
This-
press. I wish I
Exactly.
had these insane
You know what
printers.
this I think is a definitely a nurture scenario of like the way we were raised sort of deal, because I know the way I was fucking raised is if you want something done right and do it yourself.
Hell
I
yeah.
have that fucking motto, but it's like you can't do it yourself
Because then
let other people help.
Yeah, I can't literally screen print 9,000 of something. Like I can't do it. I don't have the equipment and I don't have the skill. But I'm like, I can't. There's nothing worse than like getting something back and realizing like you made a mistake in like the editing and you didn't change it to CMYK and it's still in freaking RGB and the colors are all blown out and then you're like, okay, I have 50 of these and all 50 of them are garbage. Just garbage, dude. It sucks. And then it's like, oh, and then sometimes they messed up and you're like, oh, like, I wish I could have been standing over your shoulder when you did this because I hate this. This is not it.
I like the idea of collaboration. I'm very much the type of person who wants people to help me at all times.
Absolutely.
Which is one of my harder things, is to do things completely by myself, because I like the opinions of others in the sense of, am I wasting my time if I'm the only person looking at this thing?
Sometimes the silence in your brain is just too deafening too.
Exactly.
Like,
so I need hands, but I also, it's so hard to pass something off. I need to have my eyes on it. When I've gotten my photography printed, I feel less of that way, because I'm like, I basically saw it all. You're just putting it on the paper. But I also know nothing about Photoshop, which is kind of ironic because I am a photographer and I've never photoshopped a single one of my photos.
Dude. It's actually not as hard as you think it is, and it's such like a muscle memory thing once you like hop back into it, because I've like done some stuff, stepped away, been like, oh my god, I forgot, and then you come back and you're like, oh no, this is here and this is actually called this, mode adjustments, like freaking sliding around the grayscale, adding more yellow,
blend options. And it's like the same. That's the nice thing with Adobe. It's like literally the same on every fucking platform. Like so Illustrator is like the same as fucking After
I gotta
Effects.
dabble into Illustrator. I haven't like dipped my toes yet, but I think just for text, I have a lot of like different texty like layouts and like spreads for like a book. If you're doing like, it has to be obviously like facing pages. This is really boring, but it has to be facing pages. But when you put all of it in together, it's not going to be 1 next to 2, 3 next to 4.
Yeah, it's like 1 and 7.
And 11.
Right.
And then 2.
Like a book.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but thinking about, oh, this is how this gets put together is like,
hurts the brain real big brain hurt, ouch, bad.
Big brain ouchies.
The biggest ouchies.
And it's like, if anybody out there is listening, like the fucking pen tool in Illustrator, like literally fix it, Adobe. Thank you.
Dude, I do agree about the pen tool, but on Photoshop.
It sucks, asshole.
So often I'll like scan something in. This is again really boring, but I'll scan something in that I've like drawn. And then because I like use the little magic wand to like find the shape, then I gotta go back. Yeah, object, that's what it's called. I'll use object select to like take, bits and pieces and smash them all together. But then it can't for some reason figure out how to get all of it. Oh. So then I have to spend hours zooming in.
Option key and then
No.
With the polygonal lasso tool.
But sometimes it just can't.
Sitting here clueless.
It's something about the scan. There's some reason that like the edges are like fuzzy or crinkly. So then I have to go back with my tool and literally just like round every single letter
such a bit.
For hours. I'm zoomed in so far, like no one can even tell what I'm editing. They're like, what is that? And I zoom out, it's like 1,000 words. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, I'm totally gonna check it out. I'm totally not scared by this conversation I just eavesdropped on.
It takes time, but it's worth it. And it's not that hard. It's just time consuming. I don't love staring at a screen. Yeah, not really for me. I like paper and pen. I like reading books.
Which I was gonna say. The Adobe, like Procreate, the iPad. Why doesn't everybody fucking use iPad for Illustrator? It literally makes no sense to me why they still even teach it in like the actual app in schools, because it's like you should literally just give graphic designers or whatever a Wattpad or
a pencil
and be like, this is how you do it, because it's so much easier, it's so much freer. It literally has like velocity and dynamics and yada 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 chitty chat.
I know if I got a pen, a pencil, a Wattpad, a iPad, whatever pad to draw, it would change the game.
That's the goal.
And then I'm like, I do and have so many things that it's hard to justify buying more stuff for my niches. Yeah, but then I'm like, oh, but I could use that for the website design, and I could use it for XYZ, and I could make prints with that. And then I
already have an iPad somewhere.
No, I don't.
I could have sworn you had an iPad for like
My
a
dad
minute.
had an iPad and it was charging behind my door one day and the
Okay.
fire alarm went off and he swung the door open
Yeah.
and shattered the glass.
There it is.
So we had an
God.
iPad for maybe a week and then it was my dad's and he forgot his Apple ID and it's just been bricked ever since. So we had an iPad for about a week in like 2015.
All right.
Major bummer.
Yeah. And then I'm like, is that version of my art worth buying an iPad? How much is getting an iPad or a pencil or any type of drawing thing gonna affect me where it's worth the cost? Because you guys are both artists in the sense of you're constantly drawing and that's the niche that you're in versus that's not necessarily my niche, but I like to do those things for fun and they make me happy, but I could also turn them into things like instead of
Nick
drawing
uses Photoshop on his
iPad.
because his computer out of commission. Got an iPad instead to use half as a portfolio to be able to like have
That's
that
really
crazy
nice.
huge ass screen and be like, look at this beautiful photo that I took. That he doesn't have an accent, but that's what I'm imagining he is in meetings.
Mm-hmm.
But then also he can edit on it. He
Yeah.
can look at photos on it, make selections, bring it into Photoshop, bring it into whatever app he is using at the moment. So I feel like it is a multi-use tool.
Yeah, I think once my laptop
Definitely.
kicks it, then I could more justify, I could
Yeah.
use this for photography. I could use this to draw prints and then screen print on totes and all the things that I love to do
Yeah.
that I kind of, because it's not like I can't do them without the iPad. It's just more steps.
Right. It's
Yeah,
one
it's
of those.
easier.
It's just cutting corners if I had an iPad.
It's one of those things that you're like, if I get a yoga mat, I'm gonna do yoga every fucking day. It's like that. Like that was me. I was like, if I get a fucking iPad, like it's over. Like sticker collection, launching everything.
What's
this,
up
this,
with
and
the
that.
sticker collection situation that's like popping off though? Just to like sidebar, I feel like lots of girls on Etsy.
Oh,
like,
it's
opening
sticker
their
mania
store,
right now.
Their
Yes.
White Claw stickers. I'm like, girl, be careful of copyright infringement because I'm pretty sure you did not ask White Claw to draw that sticker.
Right,
Mhm.
and that is on rights managed. Like literally.
See, and I'm clueless, and I'm like, oh gosh. I mean, I don't think I'd ever copyright something, but
Just no brands.
when there's
Yeah.
things that I'm unaware of, I'm like, does that make should my price be lower because I have less information in the brain?
No, I think
I mean,
quality. It comes
yeah,
down to quality.
Because if you're just gonna put it on like fucking education, then that's not even art anymore. Because like that's the beauty of being like an artist or going into like being like a freelancer is that you literally don't need a degree and
Mhm.
people like still respect you because you're talented.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have the work to show. You have the portfolio. You have the experience that you've kind of proven.
As time goes by and my portfolio gets bigger, I think I gain more confidence, but still I struggle with the worth so much because of how worthy I find myself. Not necessarily.
It's a comparison thing.
Yeah, but I'm not comparing my photography to other people's photography, and I'm like, oh,
What
there's
you
this.
could do.
But I
Yeah.
feel like you're inherently comparing your level of education, let's say,
Yeah.
in terms of photography to other people's who maybe went to a 4-year school and were photography major.
Exactly.
Every fucking day.
But I think it's
for
kind of cool
projects.
though, because it's like you figured out all these things they would have taught you. Maybe not everything, maybe everything. I don't know. I guess it depends what school you went to. But you figured out, oh, if I want to make something more diffused, you go and you get plastic wrap and you put plastic wrap on your lens. Like you're figuring out the little techniques and
Yeah.
little ways that you can get what you want.
Mhm.
So I think it's almost more valuable that you didn't have the instruction and that you had to do trial and error and
Yeah.
you had
Yeah.
to say, this
And-
doesn't work.
And not for nothing, but school definitely puts you in a box.
It's
Like
always
with assignments and shit. They're like, you need to, for this
Oh.
one, you need to
Art school
focus
is
on
resources.
shutter speed. Yeah, it is
Arts
resources.
for you
When-
just meet people
Mhm.
and that's what you gain from it.
When-
You pay your money for your connections.
Yeah, when I got my associate's degree, when I did my film projects, I would read the instructions and I genuinely laughed. There was this one project where it said all tripod shots, blah, blah, blah. I saw all tripod shots and I was like, no tripod, actually. I'm not even going to, that's ruining my idea for this assignment. And I broke every rule because I was confident that I could create something better than the confines that they tried to put me in. And they always passed me, but they were always so frustrated because it's not that I think I'm too good to learn new things, but if I think I'm never going to use that skill and I kind of have an understanding on it, then I don't want to do it. But then when I've taken photography classes and I've had to use Photoshop and I'm sitting there and I know in my brain I could edit this photo much better on an app that I'm more comfortable using, and no, it's so intimidating to use that. Even when I'm editing video I use Final Cut, and in class we would have to use
Premiere.
No, it's worse. It's an old one. It's like what
Fucking
they use
iMovie?
No, I forget what it's called. They use it in
Masterpieces have been made with iMovie, okay?
They use it in like LA. Like it's the
school is like also
HD
50%
Pro or whatever that one is.
It's 50% showing that you know how to follow instructions.
Yeah, and
at the end of the day, your degree is like, hey, I know how to follow instructions. It doesn't matter that it's actually an associate's and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
This piece of paper says to anyone you show it to, anyone you tell you graduated college to, that you know how to follow instructions. It's not about making the best product.
Yeah,
it's do
and
what
I
I
also
tell you.
Can't follow instructions. I really can't.
Yeah, and the worst when teachers, like, when you do break every rule and then, like, a professor will be like, but did you look at the rubric? And you're like, yeah, but that's not all. Like, you try to, like, you're like, no, but listen, watch. And it's just like, okay, but you didn't follow the assignment. You're like, okay.
Isn't what's in front of you really good, though? Yes or no?
Yeah. But you live and you learn some, and it's dandruff season. I know that was a total switch up, but
Are you watching it float?
I just saw a piece fall in front of my eyes and go in a light ray, and I just had to point it out.
How do you think your self-worth... Oh my gosh, people are screaming outside. I could hear them through my headphones. How do you think your self-worth changing over time has also changed the way you perceive your artwork? Or your artwork in general.
Make your artwork, yeah.
I think it kind of goes back to what we were saying before about Claire and about confidence. Mm-hmm. Before, I was scared. It felt too personal to me to share my art. It wasn't, or I guess it wasn't even fear necessarily. It was just like, this is so much a part of me, and I spent so much of my time putting all of my energy into this that, like, if I post it and, like, you know, whatever, I don't get the feedback I want, then that's just like me being too vulnerable. But I've kind of grown to have less fear of that vulnerability, I guess, or maybe I'm just more comfortable in terms of where I'm at and how I feel in general. But I think it definitely was like a confidence thing, and being able to be like, yes, this is something that's really, really personal to me. Like, so many art critiques, I would literally be like trying not to cry. Not because I was like sad or anything, but it was just like so weird and so personal to be like, tell me about this painting. I'm like, oh my God, like, how can I condense it into a 7-minute thing, and then you're all going to critique it?
Yeah, like, you don't even get the half of it, because it's like when, like, I totally feel that, like, when you're painting something and it's just like, oh, what, I could be like of the most random thing, but you're like, have 1,005 things in your head, like, while you're painting it, that,
or
like,
there's nothing.
And
then, oh my God, you're sitting and you know your turn's coming up, and you're like, fuck, I got to think of something, and I have to think of something quick because Jenny's talking right now and I'm standing next to Jenny and it's my turn. And I didn't think at all in the 16 hours it took me to paint this. Not a single thought went through my head.
Just a total blackout.
Like, the only reason I know I painted it was because so-and-so sitting next to me was talking to me. Like, sometimes you don't know.
Yeah, it's so hard to explain something that doesn't have a fucking explanation, and then it's also so hard to explain something that does have an explanation because it's so layered. I'm like, okay, well, it started off like this, and then it led here, and now I'm painting this because I don't know why.
I'm like, how much time do you have?
I don't know if my perception is skewed. I've never... If it's someone I don't know, I really don't care what a stranger thinks of my art. I always care about what people I love think about what I'm doing. Yeah. 'Cause I could post something online, but you know for sure I sent it to you first, and I sent it to Claire, or I sent it to Michael, and I'm looking for that approval of, oh, like, what do you think about the edit? What do you think about the photo? XYZ. once it's on the internet, I really could care less what happens. The only reason I'm putting it out there is so more people see my art.
Yeah.
But I've hysterically cried in front of rooms of students before while talking about something. Like, I've never been scared to be vulnerable, but I think I've correlated like loved ones I've had not thinking my stuff was good with my self-worth, and then I'm like, well, everything I do is garbage. And now I'm kind of at the point in my life where I'm like, oh no, I'm actually really good at things that I do.
It's
and
actually a really good point, though.
I will.
I've never thought about it like that, but maybe that is also kind of a factor. The fact that like I'm now surrounded by so many people who are so amazing and fantastic, and they have so many great thoughts and opinions and feedback that it's exciting and it's rewarding to have something and to share it, because I'm like, yes, like I have a community of people who are going to give me the feedback that I want, versus like just shooting blanks into a void.
Yeah.
Just like not really
Because I think it could be really scary when you're shooting blanks into a void and you post your art on social media and you are going to deem it worthy or not, depending on how many likes it gets or how many comments it gets, versus you sending it to someone that loves you and they're like, oh my gosh, how'd you do that? I can't believe you did that. That's beautiful. Like, I can't believe how much you've grown. Like, those types of things. Or even if it's not good, if someone's like, oh, hey, you should change this a little before you put it up. Love that.
No,
we
do love constructive.
So much.
Shouts out to all the constructive, emphasis on constructive criticism.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever, I don't think I've ever received bad criticism before from someone that I cared about, but I've felt like I've given my artwork to someone that I've cared about and they didn't appreciate it. So then I'm like,
worst.
Oh, it wasn't good.
I want like 75 fucking paintings back that I've given to people who've been like, cool, I like the way you did the trees. And I'm like, what the fuck?
You don't get it.
It's just like, no, I totally relate with that. I also, when I post something, I feel like a lot of artists do that. Anyone does this. You look at something for too long and you think it sucks.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you gotta step away.
Every time after I post something, because I'll stare at it for like an hour and a half, fucking editing in Photoshop, editing on whatever, and then I post it and I'm looking at it on the gram, and I'm like, that's pretty bad.
Hate it, actually.
And I'm like, that sucks. Do I want people to correlate this with
That's
me?
why it's hard not having like a studio to go to for me, because I'll just keep touching it. I'll just keep coming back to it. I'll be sitting on the couch. I'll be eating dinner. And I'm like, I need to change this thing. I need to do this. I need to do that. And I feel like, especially if you're working with a medium that needs that time to dry, like I can just ruin stuff, because I don't have to go home, get on the train, wait an hour, get off the train, go to sleep. I can't go back to the studio that day, so I don't end up coming back for 2 more days. And sometimes that space is like so good. And now if it's like sitting in the corner of my living room and I can just paint all night, sometimes I'm like, so
you're just simmering in it. You're just relishing in
this
that.
is wrong, this is great, this is bad, this is awesome, this is awful.
And you're like, but I could change that eyebrow. I could. And you're like, I could just go in there quick. Yeah.
Just really quick. The quickest that you've ever seen. Do you think, or how much do you think like you changing in the past, let's say how long I've known you, like 4 years, do you think it correlates with your art at the same time? Do you think like...
Yeah, I think Celia, when you glowed up, did your art glow up? Was that the question?
I think, it became the most authentic form of my art when I kind of felt like I was the most authentic version of myself.
Yeah,
like stuff that was hard before, like a face or a hand or a foot. Like if it was difficult, I didn't want to do it. I would find a way, a clever way, in quotation marks, but I would find a way to not do it. Like I remember when I took a drawing class a trillion years ago, I would always leave the face for last because I hated having like a timed drawing situation where, you have to get the gist of everything, but you only have like 30 seconds or a minute or 5 minutes. And so I would always leave it for last and be like, I ran out of time.
Whoops.
And now I feel like I wouldn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
You push yourself. Because I genuinely remember when you're like, I hate hands. And now you draw hands all the time. All of your drawings
Really
are of
goofy.
people, and they're so beautiful. And I think you're uber talented. So I hope
so
you're
good.
very aware of that. One quickie little thing. Do you have any advice or like things that you've gone through that changed the way you see your art, and do you like the advice you've given yourself or the advice you've received that helped you become more comfortable being authentic?
I think you got to try everything.
Mm-hmm.
And if something isn't working anymore, if you don't want it, if you're stuck, I remember one of like the best things that ever happened to me was really gross, awful little artist block. And my father was just like showing me this book of like images that he had just kind of collected, like little mood board, but like in a hardbound sketchbook, and like half collage, half kind of just slapped in there. But the idea that there's like so many different ways to create, and if you can't think of the idea, maybe you don't have to. Just look at a magazine and then pull the stuff from the magazine that you like, or don't sit down and be like, I'm gonna draw this. Just use a weird material that you've never used before. Use oil pastels, use crayons, use marker, whatever you can get your hands on. Just use it and try to understand the material, as opposed to trying to do this, to draw a horse or something like that.
That's such good advice.
Mm-hmm.
To like not be afraid.
Because then you don't have to. It's more about like, oh, what happens when I mix these two things together? What happens if I put this on top of this or this underneath this? And it becomes an experimentation, and it's fun because you're exploring and you're learning new things as you go. And so it doesn't matter what it looks like in the end. It doesn't matter what you've done.
Yeah, it's not like
you had a good
stressful
time.
anymore. Yeah.
I think one of the things I've observed that you do is you do things. You said before, like, you like doing one thing, but you'll do that one thing over and over again until it becomes the one thing that you really like.
Yeah.
Like, not necessarily did you create one thing and that was that. I've seen you start over. I've seen you do thousands of sketches. Like, I asked you to draw me a tattoo, and she's like flipping through like 8 different versions of it that she was like testing out. And sometimes I'm like, oh, but I already committed to this sketch, you know, I don't want to erase because I already put so much work and effort into this. And if I start over, then I start over, and that kind of sucks sometimes, or even
it's not always fun to start over.
Yeah. But I think the fact that I always see you do it, I'm like, I could just start over, because who knows, this idea that I'm so attached to might not even turn out the way I actually want it to.
And sometimes it's cool to be able to see like, oh, this is where I started and this is where I ended up. And they're both awesome, and they're both completely valid in their own sense. But, you know, maybe I'll draw something with pen, and then I'll switch to pencil, and then it's colored pencil, but then it's marker, and then it's paint, and, you know, try to figure out how to use all these different mediums to kind of achieve like the same thing, and what do I like best.
Yeah.
Progression is amazing.
And I think one of the most special things about becoming more authentic in our art is, most recently, the photo shoot you and I did together. We had not a single idea of what we were going to do, but the fact we've been making art for so long together, and we're speaking the same language, it just comes out amazing.
I think trust too. Also.
Trust.
Like, definitely there are so many people where it's like, you know, just random photographers. If I showed up and it like became an arts and crafts project, I'd be like, why did you call me here if you didn't have like an idea?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why am I sitting here with like a hot glue gun if you made it this huge deal, where it's like I trust you. It doesn't matter if you're like, so I think maybe we'll start with this or we can try this. I know that whatever happens, it's going to be fun. I'm going to have a good time, and I'm not just going to be like standing quiet in a corner, like afraid to talk, because I'm like, oh, I don't really know you at all, and you probably don't think I'm cool. Back to that, circling back.
That's
all cyclical, but I know that no matter like what we do, like I'm gonna have fun, and I'm gonna love it because it's something that we worked on together.
Yeah, I agree. Any thoughts, Claire?
I can't stop touching my dandruff. that was literally what I was just doing. I was sitting away from like, no, I thought that was good advice, and to, you know, not to be scared. Hard work pays off. Like, it's really fun. Like, and to not to get all sorority girl, but fucking trust the process. That's nice. Cause like I'll be like, oh, this looks like shit. I'll be like, yeah, like what are we doing? Arts and crafts. I thought this was a photo shoot, but then it comes out literally.
Even you and I were
Goddess of Eve
painting off the cuff the other day, and you restarted like 4 times, and then it
Did
ended
you
up.
watch that video?
No, I haven't watched it back.
What?
Claire fully spiraled for an hour, but she ended up making something that she really liked.
The first canvas, what I wrote on the canvas initially, you're gonna laugh at.
What'd you write?
I wrote, you'll see it. And
Okay.
you'll laugh. Watch the YouTube video. Everyone.
Okay, well, thanks, Celia, for
Thanks
joining
for
the cast.
Thanks for having me.
It's been super fun. I hope you come back.
I hope I'll be invited back.
Oh,
Duh.
doors
Well,
open.
aren't you
Come
gonna
on.
wait to see if the people hate me first?
No, because we like
Well,
you. And you're the best. Check Celia out. My little Senorita Chiquita on the gram. Is that one public?
Yeah, that one's public. Senorita_Chiquita. I think someone took the other one.
Rude.
It was probably a blank Instagram. That's the best part. But doesn't matter because we're the best version
That's
of.
right.
I agree completely. I almost crashed my car once trying to take a picture
Yeah.
of Celia with a Chiquita banana truck.
We were on the highway. She was
Banana
like, take the
wishes.
wheel. I'm like, you're going 80. I'm not going to take the wheel and also be in this photo. It's not possible.
You needed to take the wheel and pose with the banana truck.
It would have been worth dying. It would have been worth it.
Crashed. There's no doubt in my mind.
But think
we
about the
would've
photo
died
that would have been
day.
on that camera.
It probably would have gotten ruined in the crash.
You're right. Well, find Claire on the medias at Claire.444. And you could find me at Lady Gleep and at sixofhearts.club.
Hey.
So thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.
And we'll
Thanks,
see you
Was
again.
that episode 4? Woo!
Bye.
Bye.